It all started here, at the First United Methodist Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, sometime in late 1994. We were there for a potentially explosive work-in-progress screening of the Uprising of '34. Our mission? To ensure community support for those elders who'd courageously talked for the very first time.
And organized labor in the South, in the whole, gets a dirty word.
It was while we were talking about how to use the Q&A that George Stoney, acclaimed documentarian, native North Carolinian, co-director, producer of the film, and future founding board member of Working Films, said this: "Making a film is only 50% of the work. Putting that film to work, that's the other half of the job." For Robert West, then curator of film and video at the Mint Museum of Art in Charlotte, North Carolina, and director of its acclaimed film festival, who had graciously loaned us the projector and screen. And for Judith Helfand, a first-time filmmaker, co-directing with George Stoney, this statement turned into a cornerstone challenge that sealed a friendship and catalyzed a collaboration that's evolved from a small 501c3 run from Robert's kitchen table in a former cotton mill village house to the 1910 brick firehouse in Wilmington, North Carolina, that's Working Films headquarters today.
When audiences sit in a theater, not unlike this one, and the lights come up, and the filmmaker might be there, and people say, "What can I do?" The filmmaker, that's a moment in time the filmmaker has to actually answer that question, answer it well. And the idea that Judith and I had 11 years ago is still the core mission, and that is uniting the storytellers with the folks on the street.
New York filmmaker Beverly Peterson not only premiered at Sundance, but also at Utah's Capitol Hill. Lawmakers watched part of her documentary, which shows firsthand hatred.
I have a knot in my stomach after viewing these first 20 minutes.
For the past 4 years, Senator Pete Suazo has tried to get a hate crimes bill passed.
It appears he's gaining a little bit of support this time around. It has made it out of committee, and the Senate is expected to make a vote on that bill tomorrow.
For the 6th year in a row, lawmakers will once again hear a push for hate crimes legislation. Lawmakers sat and listened to a first-hand account of the murder of James Byrd, a Texas man who was dragged behind a pickup truck for 3 miles to his death.
What this film shows is the impact that a hate crime has on the community.
Action.
I think the reason why Blue Vinyl is different than other films is because of the relationship between the organizers, the filmmakers, and Working Films, in which we strategize together about how to be mutually supportive. How can our organizing work help the filmmakers to distribute a film that has the message that we want?
I'm standing here wearing this little piece of vinyl that I got after watching the movie Blue Vinyl, which was kind of an inspiration for our project and for this project.
So what we're doing with people all across the country is getting local communities together, kids like yourselves, and asking our leaders to step it up on global warming.
We wanted to see how does global warming impact Americans. We heard that there was going to be some extreme messaging going on in the Arctic. What we decided to do was have Park City answer back to Iqaluit. To the kids in Iqaluit, the kids here would say, in the native tongue, they would say, "We hear you, and we're doing something about it."
Who are our target audiences, and how can we use these opportunities to really engage them and make strategic actions around these to make things change. We said students and youth, teachers, active military, fence sitters who we could rename and say people who can be engaged to action.
Trying to actually do a matrix of the opportunity that we know this film is going to present for all of you to reach sort of the audiences that we're talking about here, which is like folks in the middle.
So we were trying to come up with a way to engage people after they see the film or read the book. And we wanted to go beyond, having them sign a pledge or call their senator. And the idea that we came up with was a 1-week experiential learning program.
So today is Thursday of the No Impact Project. Today's challenge is replace kilowatts with ingenuity, explore no energy alternatives to accomplish your daily tasks. So in this room we have the ubiquitous computer, printer, cable box, the lamp. Out here we have the theatrical lamp that I love to use. It's like I leave it on constantly. I just wonder how much electricity I would save just by shutting that one light off. This is almost like a pivotal moment, shutting off that light.
Unless new generations of people in this country saw disability as just a natural part of the diversity of our culture, I would not have achieved the goals of the film. So that's when Working Films helped us organize a summit of disability rights and educational leaders from around the country. And the big idea that came out of that summit was we need a national inclusion campaign that is teen-led and teen-focused. We selected 20 teenagers with and without disabilities to come together for the summit.
Something that Ziggy said yesterday really stuck out to me was the phrase, "different is normal." I really like that.
Over the course of 2 days, these 20 teenagers came up with this idea for a campaign which is now called I Am Norm.
That all of them address is physical perfection, so it's roughly body image, physical perfection, media, and this is the one that's supposed to open up the discussion.
So who in New York City needs to see this movie?
With spas and hairdresser.
After school programs, if you could get it, in the educational system between 9 and 3, that'd be great.
Churches, because it is a religious issue, right? The body.
So if this film could be used to open the eyes of the general public so that people would be up in arms and would sign on for, regulatory reform of toxic chemicals, that would be amazing as well.
That's great. Can you guys sign on to that?
Well, I think actually everyone at this table has committed to ensure that Congress acts quickly on the Helping Veterans of Camp Lejeune Act, which will provide health care for veterans and their families who have had health effects from the contaminated drinking water.
I want to thank everybody who is here because they all did outstanding work in helping to get this legislation completed. This bill ends a decade-long struggle for those who served at Camp Lejeune.
There's no silver bullet that's going to fix a big problem like climate change. A global problem takes a global solution and a global commitment, and it takes lots of different stories from lots of different places to really move that dial and make change.
I'm here with a consortium of filmmakers called Real Power. Real Power has films about gas, about coal, about extractive energy.
One of the things that really transformed me coming to this Real Power collaborative with Deep Down was just how similar these stories are and how the forces of oppression work in the same ways over and over and over again. It's the same story if it's in Appalachia with mountaintop removal as it is out west, as it is the Cataract Islanders. It's the same story just happening in these different localities.
As nonprofits, we find ourselves trying to figure out how to get our messages out, trying to figure out how to tell the story. Every session you go to on public relations and marketing and how to get your message out says tell the story.
Today is really something incredible. Working Films has a really uncanny ability to figure out how to make these films work for us in the field of aging.
So we did our best matchmaking, and you'll have about 20 to 25 minutes to have a discussion about your ideas for how these films could be used.
Generations of people who, met her when they were students in the 60s, and then they stayed in Detroit and spawned this Detroit Summer movement, which is in the film, which is this intergenerational youth movement to rebuild the city.
If we put together, for instance, a little bit of a marketing call to some of these guys, especially to the commercial, is that something you would be willing to help us with about language and to say, we're going to need some branding?
You can go into a legislator's office and put constituents right there on the, on the iPad or the laptop, and have them talk directly to their legislator, because they can actually see, what somebody's life is like. Well, I mean, that's more powerful than anything else.
And what I saw today was an opportunity to take what you have produced in the 11 films as a way to even get our message out, which is so helpful.
The main purpose of these conversations is to strategize on solutions and to figure out ways that we can seek justice, but also reconciliation. What is the responsibility or the role that men can play in ending violence against women?
Gender violence is not going to end with women and girls doing the work. It's going to take communities of men, and it's not good enough for you as a male to say, well, I'll never do that, that's wrong, that's horrible, but you have people around you and you say nothing about it, you become just as guilty.
There have been times I've questioned myself as to, I hear things maybe on a train, or I see things in my daily life and I just walk by. And I've asked myself several times, yo, why don't you say something?
Our main concern is that his race should not preclude him from having the best education possible.
We ended up with a bitter story about race and hope and about squandered opportunities.
What we saw firsthand was the amazing capacity of kids to master other languages at a young age.
So we're seeking partners to somehow find a way to use the film to create conversation around the arts.
And I think that's a message we need to also bring to these schools, these teachers, these administrators, these states, that success can actually happen.